What do you think of when you think of standing up for yourself against narcissists or otherwise toxic, manipulative people? For a lot of us, we project our own way of thinking and feeling onto the people in our lives, and this can cause us to stand up for ourselves in counterproductive ways. In today's video, I'm going to go over some effective methods of standing up for yourself against people that actually mean you harm. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Before I get into any of this, I want to add a disclaimer here that if you're in a dangerous situation, the advice I'm going to give you on how to stand up for yourself against narcissistic, toxic, manipulative people could actually cause their behavior to escalate. When narcissists don't get what they want, when they can't get a reaction out of you, when they can't control your emotions and make you upset, they can start to get very upset. They can double down. They can start to get meaner, and their behavior can escalate and escalate and escalate as they start to try harder and harder and harder to get a reaction out of you. And it can actually become a very dangerous situation. So I want you to keep that in mind throughout everything else I'm going to talk about in this video. Please don't put yourself in unnecessary danger. And if you feel like you may be in any kind of danger, please get help. That is more important than anything I'm going to talk about in this video. Please make sure that you are physically safe. So as I said in the introduction, sometimes when we're trying to stand up for ourselves, we're projecting our way of thinking and feeling onto the people that we're trying to stand up for ourselves against. For most of the people watching this video, I would assume that it bothers you if a loved one is angry at you, that you don't like when someone you care about is yelling at you or insulting you. But when we're dealing with narcissists or otherwise toxic, manipulative people, we're often dealing with people that actually enjoy and get a charge out of these reactions. We aren't dealing with people that actually care about us, that actually value the health of the relationship. We're dealing with people that feel powerful when they're able to control our emotions and cause these kind of reactions in us. So the angrier we get, the more reactionary and emotional we get, the more they're actually encouraged to continue whatever behavior caused it. And that's really the foundation of everything I'm going to talk about in this video. And it's really up to you to determine whether or not you're dealing with a toxic person that doesn't actually care about the relationship, or whether or not you're dealing with somebody that actually does care if they're hurting you. But it's really not that hard to determine the difference. So keep that in mind as we go over the next few scenarios of situations in which you might feel the need to stand up for yourself. I'm going to go over knee-jerk reactionary ways that might be a very natural way for you to feel like standing up for yourself. And then I'm going to go over more effective, healthy ways of actually standing up for yourself. So for the first scenario, let's say that you cooked dinner for somebody, and maybe this is a group of people, or maybe it's just one person, but you worked really hard. This was maybe a lot of work for you, and you really care about whether or not these people enjoy your cooking, and somebody right there at the dinner table insults you. Not in a constructive way, not in an honest, authentic way, but in a way that's really meant to hurt your feelings, in a really rude way. Like maybe they say something like, I can't eat this, or where'd you learn to cook with this? Haven't you ever heard of spices? Something like that. A knee-jerk way to react to this would be to get angry, which is totally understandable and natural, and to defend yourself, to say something like, I spent 3 hours on this, or maybe you can cook next time, or maybe just to start crying. These are all perfectly understandable. So I'm not saying that you've done anything wrong if you've ever reacted this way to being treated like this, but this is exactly the wrong way to react if you really want to stand up for yourself. When you're dealing with somebody who's really trying to get a reaction out of you or is really trying to hurt you or embarrass you, in other words, a toxic, manipulative, narcissistic person, you're dealing with somebody that wants you to react. So one of the most effective ways you can stand up for yourself is to remain calm, is to not let them see that they've pushed your buttons and made you angry. So anything you say, if it's said in a calm, non-reactionary way, is a very effective way of standing up for yourself. It discourages them from continuing to try to push your buttons if they're unable to push your buttons. So you could say something like, well, maybe next time you can cook the meal. If you say it in a calm way, that's a completely different way of reacting than, well, maybe you can cook it next time. One way is very reactionary and it encourages them to continue insulting you. And the other way is a very matter-of-fact, calm boundary that you're setting. You're saying, well, if you don't like it, then maybe next time you should cook the meal. Now, after you've made this calm response, whatever it was you chose to say, or maybe you chose not to respond at all, not to say anything, that's another effective way to stand up for yourself against these types of people. It's really important that you end the conversation, that you stop talking to them. So let's say you say something to them like, well, maybe next time you can cook the meal. And they come back with something like, oh, okay, so you don't even care that you couldn't even bother to put enough effort into this meal to make it edible. You would just come back again with whatever you said. So you could say again, yeah, maybe next time you can cook the meal. And whatever it is you're saying in a calm, matter-of-fact way, just keep saying that over and over again, no matter what they say. In other words, don't respond to the words that they're saying to you. Almost don't even listen to what they're saying. Just keep stating matter-of-factly, calmly, whatever your message is. And, your message could be something like, oh, I worked really hard on this and I'm sorry you don't like it. You could say that. You could say that over and over and over again. And if there's people at this dinner and you respond in this way, you're really showing everybody else what a jerk this other person is. And they probably all know anyway. Now, another point I want to quickly make is an even more wrong way to react to something like this would be to try even harder to cook the right way, to meet this person's complaints, to make them happy. Because people that are this mean and rude and demanding and ungrateful probably aren't really complaining about the quality of the food. I mean, maybe they don't love what you cooked, but it's not a matter of you not cooking good enough. That's not why they're being insulting and demeaning. They're insulting and demeaning because that's the kind of person they are. So even if you figured out how to cook the most delicious meal they've ever eaten in their whole life, somebody like this is going to find something else to complain about, or they might even keep complaining about your cooking, even if your cooking is stellar. So the absolute wrong thing to do is to assume that they're right, that they have a right to be so rude and critical of you, and to try to make them happy, to try to be a better cook or a better whatever it is they're criticizing you for. This really only encourages them to continue to be mean and overcritical of you. So the two main things to remember in this type of scenario is don't let yourself get reactionary. Don't let the other person see if you're angry or emotional. And two, remember that whatever it is they're saying probably is greatly exaggerated. It's very unlikely that they actually mean the things that they're saying. They're really just trying to get a rise out of you. They're really just trying to control your emotions, insult you, and maybe even try to get you to react in a way that makes you look bad. The next scenario I want to talk about is one where somebody responds with a really passive-aggressive kind of phrase. Like maybe you're trying to set a boundary. Maybe you're trying to tell somebody that you can't pay their bills for them, or they can't borrow your car, or something like that. And they respond by saying something like, well, you don't even care about me, or you don't even want to spend time with me, or it's like you don't even want to be around me. You don't even want to help me. Something like this. Now, assuming this person is a toxic, manipulative person, The absolute worst thing you could do in this type of scenario is start trying to convince them that you really do care about them or you really do like spending time with them. Trying to argue with them and defend yourself and trying to convince them that their accusation is wrong, because that's really all they're trying to do. They're trying to manipulate you into proving their accusation wrong by doing what they want you to do. So if they've asked you to let them borrow your car and you say no, and they just say something like, well, you don't even care if I lose my job then, do you? And you spend the rest of the night trying to convince them that you do care, you don't want them to lose their job, they're just going to keep doubling down. They're not going to be convinced until you let them borrow your car. Obviously, you don't care about them at all, right? And if you really care about convincing them that you do care, you'll let them use your car. So when you're emotionally invested in making sure that this person understands that you really do care about them, or you really don't want bad things to happen, or you really do want to spend time with them, when you're emotionally invested and you've got to convince them that they're wrong about this, you're going to get carried along in an endless circular argument that goes nowhere until you give in to whatever it is they want. And that's why they do this. So somebody that says something like, you don't even care about me anymore, I doubt they've even given any thought to the idea of whether or not you actually care. That's not why they're saying that. They're saying that to manipulate you. And when you respond emotionally with things like, I can't afford to pay for your gas, or I won't be able to pay for my own, or I can't spend every minute with you, I have to do this and I have to do that. You know, when you're emotional and you're trying to defend yourself and you're trying to convince them that they're wrong, now they've really got control over you. Now they've really got you where this is never going to end until they get their way, until they get what they want. So how do you respond and set effective boundaries? You remain calm. You don't let them see if what they've said has made you emotional, and you say something matter of fact, like, you know that doesn't mean I don't care about you, or you know that I do care about you. And you leave it at that. That's a really, really important part of the way that you respond to this type of manipulation, because they are going to come back with some other kind of argument. They are going to push a different button, and they expect you to engage them with whatever it is that they say. So if you say something like, you know that I do care about you, and then they come back with some other thing, you just stick to that point. You do not respond to whatever else they're saying to you. So you just keep saying over and over again, you know I do care about you though, but I do care about you though. You know that's not true. You know I care about you though. And you just keep sticking to that point. Now, if this is a relationship that is over, that you're trying to disconnect yourself from, in my opinion, that's a little different. If this is somebody you really don't ever want to see again or talk to again, and they're trying to convince you to buy them gas or bail them out of a jam, and they come back with something like, you don't even care about me anymore, you could just agree with them. That could be a really effective way of shutting them down and ending the conversation. If you just calmly, unemotionally say, yeah, I really don't care about you anymore, because there's really no effective comeback that they can use to that that's going to further manipulate you. You've just agreed with them. Now, a third scenario I want to go over is when somebody is criticizing you and micromanaging you, complaining about things that you really can't do much about. So they're saying things like, why don't you listen to me? Or why are you doing it like that? Or you're not even trying. And maybe you have poured your heart and soul into whatever it is they're complaining about. And no matter how hard you try, it's just never good enough. You can just never figure out how to do it in a way that satisfies this person. How do you respond? A natural reactionary response is to defend yourself and say, I am trying my best. Or I don't understand what you want. Why can't you explain to me what I'm doing wrong? These are very natural, normal, emotional responses to being provoked and criticized and told again and again and again that nothing you do is good enough. But this is probably what this person wants. This is why they are criticizing you so much. They're trying to control your emotions. And when you come back with these reactionary attempts at defending yourself, this is the reason they're doing this. So it encourages them to continue nitpicking you, harassing you, insulting you. So what do? How do you react to somebody that treats you this way? I think in this kind of scenario, it's more of an internal attitude shift, because I've been in this type of situation and I've gotten really caught up in trying to do it right, trying to be good enough or do whatever it is I'm failing at, do it the right way, and then being accused of not trying. And my reaction was to keep trying to do it right, to desperately try to understand what this person wants. So emotionally, in a reactionary way, asking for more clarity, like trying to defend myself by explaining that I'm confused. I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't understand what I could do different. I don't understand why you think I'm not listening. And just getting really worked up and emotional, trying to ask this person for some sensible feedback. And of course, desperately trying to convince this person that I am trying, I'm doing the best I can, I'm putting all my effort into listening and being good enough. And really, this is an attempt to control the perception of somebody who's actually just trying to hurt you. What I should have done in the situations I was in was just accept that this person is not satisfied with the way that I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Now, in my opinion, that had nothing to do with why I was being criticized. In my opinion, this was just an opportunity that this person found to nitpick me and criticize me. So I don't think that I was actually doing anything wrong. But still, even if I wasn't able to do things in the way that this person wanted me to, it would have been much better for me to just accept that and to be okay with it, and to be okay with this person being unhappy with the way I'm doing things, instead of desperately trying to be good enough and desperately trying to convince them that I'm trying. So I should have said something very simple and unemotional, like, well, this is the way I do it. Or, well, this is the best that I have. This is the best that I'm able to do it. And then no matter how many different ways this person had come back at me, trying to get a reaction out of me, trying to insult me, trying to convince me that I should try harder or that I'm a big disappointment, to just continue again and again, unemotionally, calmly saying, this is the best I can do. This is how I do it. That's an effective way to stand your ground, stand up for yourself, and stop allowing somebody else to control your emotions. The last type of scenario I'm going to talk about is one in which you're receiving text messages or voicemails or emails where you're not actually interacting with this person face to face. Now, there's two types of scenarios where this can happen. One in which it's an ongoing relationship where you don't plan on cutting the relationship off, or you're not able to at the present moment. And another one where this is somebody you don't want to talk to anymore. You're trying to end this relationship. You're trying to cut this person out of your life. And an example of what I'm talking about is a text message that is meant to be provocative. It's meant to try to get a reaction out of you. It's meant to try to send you off into that spiral where you're endlessly trying to defend yourself and you're getting more and more upset as you try to do it. So a text message, maybe if you have a parent that does this to you, a text message like, your father was really disappointed that you didn't show up last night. Or maybe a text message from another type of relationship where they say something like, I could have really used your help last night. Or maybe you get a text message from somebody that you've had an incredibly horrible, nasty interaction with very recently, and they just text you out of the blue with something like, happy birthday, or I miss you, or something like that. Something that just makes you wonder if this person's completely insane, if they just forgot the last 3 years of your relationship with them, or how could they think that everything's fine? How could they think it's okay to just text this happy birthday or this I miss you or something like that without acknowledging the reasons that you don't want to talk to them? In any case, resist the urge to defend yourself emotionally. So in the case of the parent saying, your father was really disappointed that you didn't show up last night, resist the urge to start explaining why you didn't show up again, because this person, I presume your other parent, obviously knows why you didn't show up. You didn't want to show up. And this is just their way of invalidating you and making you feel like your reasoning, your memory, and your feelings and your opinions don't matter. So you don't need to defend yourself against people that already understand why you didn't show up. And same goes for somebody that would text you something like, I miss you, or happy birthday. You might really want to respond with something like, how could you text me like that after everything we just went through? Or how can you say happy birthday to me when the last thing you said to me is how much you hate me? It's really tempting to do this when a text message or a voicemail or an email can make you so angry. You want to respond and defend yourself, stand up for yourself, right? So what do? In my opinion, if somebody texts you or sends you a message in a way that they're not right in front of you, if this is a relationship that you want to end, you don't want to see this person anymore, ignoring them is by far the best way to react. No response is a response. And if this person's trying to engage with you in order to manipulate you, in order to get a reaction out of you, any response of any kind, no matter what you say, especially if you say something like, leave me alone, that's exactly what they want. They get a charge out of getting that emotional reaction out of you, and that encourages them to keep texting you things that make you upset. Ignoring them is absolutely the best way to get somebody to eventually leave you alone. It might not work right away. And even if they never stop, even if they never leave you alone, engaging with them is always going to be a worse option than ignoring them, because engaging with them is like throwing the ball back. They're throwing a ball to you and you're throwing it back, no matter what it is you say to them or how you say it. If you say something back, you're throwing a ball back. And if they have decided to make some sort of emotional toy out of you, you're playing with them. So they're going to throw the ball back. And every time you throw it back to them, they're going to throw it back to you. You need to stop throwing the ball back. Stop responding. Stop communicating. Stop trying to get any kind of point across to somebody who's made a mission out of getting an emotional reaction out of you. That's the most effective way to set boundaries and shut down a relationship that you're trying to end. And, a lot of people might try to tell you something like ignoring somebody is no way to build a relationship or fix a relationship, which is true. But you have every right to decide when it's time to end a relationship. And ignoring somebody and shutting them out is a very effective way of ending a relationship that is only hurting you. And I also want to add that even if this person has good intentions, even if this person wants to work on the relationship and wants to start being nicer to you and actually really does miss you, even in that type of a scenario, you are under no obligation to let anyone in your life that you don't want to have in your life. You don't owe your life to anyone. And if somebody has done something to you that you decided is a deal breaker, you've decided that you never want to reconcile with this person, you never want to have anything to do with this person again, you have the right to decide that. Nobody has the right to tell you who you owe a piece of your life to. So even if somebody were to text you out of the blue and say, I miss you, and they actually really meant it, they really weren't just trying to manipulate you, even then, you don't owe this person a response. You don't owe anyone a piece of your life. And that's a really important thing to remember when you're setting boundaries and learning how to stand up for yourself. Only you have the authority to decide who gets any of your time or energy. And you don't have to defend that decision to anyone, especially the person that you don't want to have anything to do with. They don't have to like it. Nobody has to agree with you. You do not need to convince anyone that you have a right to stand up for yourself. You don't have to convince anyone that you do care, or you are trying, or this is the best that you can do, or you didn't do whatever it is they're accusing you of. Nobody has to be convinced of your viewpoint in order for you to stand up for yourself. And you are not the world's police of making sure everybody understands the way that you feel about something or your reasoning for something. It's not your job to make sure that somebody else understands that they are being rude or that their behavior is unacceptable. It's not your job to make somebody else agree with your boundaries. And the more that you get caught up thinking that you need to make other people agree with your viewpoint or your feelings or opinions, the more you're going to be a slave to this, the more you're going to be carried off in this endless draining of your energy into a black hole that isn't going to serve anything that serves you in any good way. Let people be angry with you. Let people have the wrong idea about you. There's nothing wrong with trying to explain yourself once. There's nothing wrong with trying to defend yourself one time by explaining the truth. But when you start to get emotionally wrapped up in correcting people and making people see your viewpoint, that's when they have control of you. That's when they've won and they've got what they really want out of you. And they are never going to concede. They're never going to let that go. They're never going to agree with your viewpoint if their whole goal is to control your emotions and manipulate you. So let people be wrong. Let people be angry and upset. Let them think what they want to think. The best way to stand up for yourself is to stop caring so much about what people who don't care about you think. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.